Ovid's Metamorphoses. I've got actually somewhere I've got a meme. Alright, there's a picture of Ovid 19, and it's a little meme about Midas for you to check out. This is a recap of the lines that we've covered so far, which is I think the first 17 or so lines of this Midas episode, which is 45 lines total. So we're almost halfway through this unit, okay? And Ovid's Metamorphoses is a big book of myths, mostly about people changing into things or things changing. It's one of our biggest sources of mythology, and it's written in Latin, of course, in a very Greek meter called dactylic hexameter. We've got dactyls, and we've got spondees, and rules for making syllables long. So I'm just going to scan a couple lines just to recap. Huic Deus optan di gratum sed in utile fecit. Muneris arbitrium, oops, that's a sloppy line. Arbitrium gaudens auctore recepto. That's a sloppy line too. Kepto. Ille malusurusto nis efficae quicquid. Right. So I'm looking for dactyls and spondees, looking for things that make syllables long. I don't have any of the long marks written here. You do in your textbook, and sometimes that is helpful, but I know where words should end in long marks, and typically if, I know the third principal part has a long mark over the E there. And these are things that you guys know, some, but not all of where the long marks belong. Di gra tum sed in utile. Yeah, it's hard to read, but, and again, like a long versus a short syllable is how much time we spend saying it. So huic is a long syllable, and I'm going to spend as much time saying huic as I do on deus. Huic deus optan di gratum sed in utile fecit. So it's kind of a speed thing. Think of this as 2 half notes, and think of this as a half note and 2 quarter notes if you're musically inclined. Right? So it does affect how we pronounce it, and it does affect how the poem sounds when a Roman would read it out loud. Poetry has a little bit, just like Latin does in general, there's a flexible word order. We'll find that it's more flexible in poetry, but we're going to see that Ovid writes in a lot of 2-line couplets, so at the end of a couple lines you should be at a grammatically good stopping point, and sometimes even within a line. So there's a flexible word order, nouns won't always be near their adjective, that kind of thing, but we'll still see pretty reasonable chunks where we can put it all together. Okay? And I can always follow, what case is what to figure out what's going on. Huic, dative, all right, to this guy, and then I immediately get a subject, the god, and then I'm like, nope, that's not a verb, it's genitive, that looks accusative, that looks accusative too, so probably gratum and inutile, it's like pleasing but useless. What's pleasing but useless? Where's my accusative noun? It's not fecit, it's arbitrium. Okay, so I've got a pleasing but useless gift as the direct object, and the verb here was fecit. To this guy, the god gave the pleasing but useless gift, and I just got to fit in the genitive that was thrown in there. The pleasing but useless gift of asking for a gift. Sorry, the pleasing but useless, choice of asking for, genitive gerundive, a gift. Right? So these genitives go together. I put these accusatives, adjectives with this accusative noun, and I had a lonely dative at the beginning. To this guy, the god, subject, gave the pleasing but useless choice of asking for a gift. Gaudens, that's nominative, so it's describing my subject, rejoicing, and then I get this ablative phrase, which we'll call an ablative absolute, right, which has got a noun and a participle both in the ablative case, and we can translate it literally. With his guardian having been brought back to him, or having been restored, or having been received, or something like that. Or we can say, since his guardian was brought back, right? But the most literal is with his guardian having been brought back. All right. We know who the god is, right? That's Bacchus. We know who the to this guy is. That's Midas. Those are our two most important characters in this story. That guy, subject. Male usurus, okay, that's nominative, so it's describing my subject. About to badly use, and use is a funny, it's a puffy verb, and so it takes an ablative. About to badly use, direct object, the gifts. What does that guy do? He says, and now I get a quote, so it's going to have its own grammar. He says, imperative, make it that, whatever. Whatever looks accusative, could be nominative. Whatever, oh, I got an ablative with my body, and then I got a verb. Whatever I touch with my body, make it that whatever I touch with my body. I've got a new verb. This whatever thing. Whatever I touch with my body is turned, so it's like it's the object of touch, but it's the subject of where tater. Whatever I touch with my body is turned, and then my prepositional phrase in poetry is usually going to have the adjective like moved out in front, but it's part of the prepositional phrase, is turned into yellow gold. Into yellow gold. That's really, really common for poetry. Fulvum in aurum instead of in fulvum aurum. Okay? Cool, we know Midas's wish. We know the story. Okay? He nodded to the dative, the wishes, the things which were wished for. And what else did he do? He adnuited and he solvited. And he granted the harmful gifts, or the gifts about to harm, future participle. There's my nominative. Liber nodded to the gifts and granted nodded to his wishes and granted the harmful gifts. Liber is another name for Bacchus. And what else did he do? And he indoluated. He became sad because this guy had not wished for the accusative better things. Subject. Happy, he goes away. Well, who goes away happy? It's not our Bacchus dude, Liber, because he indoluated, right? So this is our other guy. So probably Midas. Goes away happy. And what else does he do? He rejoices in evil. Or in wrongdoing. Oh, there's my delayed subjects, just like Liber was kind of came after its verbs. The Berecynthian hero goes away happy and rejoices in this bad thing. And what else does he do? He tests. What does he test? An accusative. The faith. Oh, it's got a genitive near it. So the faith of the promise by touching, ablative, taking a direct object here, individual things. And so, oh, nominative participle. And scarcely believing for himself. And scarcely believing, what else does he do? He pulled down, what did he pull down? An accusative. A branch. And it's being described here. Green, weird little ablative here, green with foliage. He pulled down a branch, green with foliage, another ablative phrase, from a not tall tree. Specific kind of oak tree, the holm oak. Alright, so he's testing the promise, scarcely believing for himself, and he pulled down a branch, green with foliage. It's important that we know that it's green, because something's going to happen to change it, right? Now branch is the subject. The branch became, or was made, golden. Nominative, right? You're going to have a nominative, and then you have a form of like to be or to become. You're going to have another nominative, right? The branch became golden. Alright, that's the first thing. Then what? He lifts up, what does he lift up? A soxum. And he lifts it from the ablative, from the humo. What's going to happen to that soxum? Now it's the subject. The soxum also polluted, became pale with auro. So that was number 2. Okay, what else does he do? And he contigates, and he touches, what does he touch? An accusative. a glybomb. What happens to the glyba? The glyba, because of or with his powerful touch, what happens to the glyba? It becomes a nominative, a nugget, a golden nugget. All right, that was number 3. Okay, what else is he going to touch? He decarps it, he plucks the accusative, aristos. In your textbook, this is arentes with a long es, so I know that's accusative too. The dry ears, and there's a genitive right next to it, so the dry ears of Ceres, those are ears of grain, like ears of corn. And what happened when he plucked the dry ears of grain? Instead, I don't get the dry, so I got, he lifted up a soxum, the soxum did this. He contigated a glyba, the glyba did this. I would expect it to be the aristi did something, but now he's changing it up because you don't want to do 3 in a row exactly the same. So you got, it was the accused, it was the object, now it's the subject, it was the object, now it's the subject, it was the object. I'm gonna vary things on this third go. It was a nominative, a golden harvest. Okay? New thing, what else does he do? He tenets, what does he tenet? An accusative. A pomum, having been demptomed, taken down from an arbore. And again, he's going to do something different here. You would think, that sets me up for an indirect statement. It's got an accusative, Hesperidas, and an infinitive, Donace. You would think that the Hesperides, daughters of Atlas, had given that apple, right? Alright, almost done with what we've covered so far. If, something about high doorposts, but they're dative or ablative, probably ablative. If he moved what? His fingers towards the postibus altis, actually dative, because it's a compound verb. If he moved his fingers towards the high doorposts, oh, now he's going back to his original thing. Now they're the subject. The posts seem to radiare, to glow, right? Subject, verb, complementary, infinitive. That might be where we stopped. No, we got this far, definitely. That guy, even when he laveraded, he had washed, what did he wash? The accusative, his palmas, with liquidis undis, the unda flowing over or from his palmis. What would the unda do? It would be able, complementary infinitive, to eludere what? To elude, to trick who? To trick the accusative, Danae. So we've had a lot of allusions to other myths in here, a lot of wordplay, a lot of poetic stuff happening, and I'll try to cover things real quick. So we had a lot of participles grammatically, right? Like gaudens, present participle, usurus, future participle. There was probably a perfect passive participle right there. And we get also things where he says, like, he goes away happy, and this is not grammatic, this is poetic. He goes away happy and he rejoices. And we're like, well, that's kind of redundant. And we had a name for that, right? We called that pleonasm. All right? We also said if you pull down a branch from a not tall tree, what you really mean is it's a short tree. Why did you say not tall instead of short? Well, you're using a poetic way of saying things by saying not the opposite of what you are really implying, and we called that litotes. When you repeat a word like he did, like soxum, soxum, and glybom, glyba, and postibus, postes, where you're repeating the word but in like a slightly different form, like accusative nominative, dative nominative, but multiple forms of the same word. We called that polyptoton. Many totes, many forms of the same word appearing in my text. Okay, so it's really lovely poetry. The grammar is nice. The sentences are short. The allusions to other poems are plentiful. Right? We've got Danae. That's another myth. We've got the Hesperides. They're the source of golden apples in several myths. Right? So it's important that those things show up. And that is the review of the lines we've covered so far.